Bathory, the black metal band?
No.
Oh, okay.
I think she was a duchess. She bathed in like virgin blood and stuff. You know, it's all good.
Okay, now we are saving this for the podcast. This is the intro for sure.
Oh my god. Well, let's do an intro then. Fucking at least.
Okay, all right. Everyone, welcome to the Accelerativ Thrust podcast. Over in that corner, we got Mr. Erik Whitaker. Wow, man, I already screwed it up. I introduced
from parts unknown, weighing in at 342 pounds.
And I didn't even. That sounds about right for me.
It's all gold.
Okay, so I introduced you, and I don't think I introduced myself. You want to introduce me now, Erik?
He's Dan.
Okay. So that sounds great. So we're here with Mr. Brain Barr from many things throughout history and currently. For those of you who don't know Brian, he's been in several area bands from Iowa. And starting with my earliest recollection, of course, and I know that he had been playing music before this as well. Perish as Fools, and then in a band that may or may not have featured a member of this podcast, Girls of Comanche. It did, by the way. Spoiler.
Erik, right?
Yeah, Erik. Look at that band. You didn't know that he was just wearing my skin the whole time?
It's not that uncommon for people to go, wait, you were in that band?
Yeah,
exactly.
I'm like the silent member generally. Yeah.
Yes. It was like some weird sci-fi sort of thing going on, wasn't it?
It always is.
Always, all the time. Girls of Comanche, Law of All Ends, and now it is Aseethe and Granular Breath. But actually, I'm kind of confused. So is Granular Breath the name of the project, or is it the name of the album that is like your solo album, Brian?
it's kind of evolved from that into the actual name. So when I first started doing this, like it was the solo stuff. It was kind of more doing the live scores for Figgy, and so they always just booked it underneath my name. So then I just started kind of using my own name, just because I was doing it once in a while, and it was easier for promoters to be like Brain Barr of Aseethe playing a solo set. And then, like it kind of just escalated from there. I needed a name for the track when I did the Mission Creek Underground performance. And then when I started working on the Anti-Corpor sessions, recording like an actual real recording, like I just was like, well, okay, that was like it was some of that material, that early material from that performance was used for the Anti-Corpor sessions. So then I just continued that, but then I decided, I was like, I kind of just like this as a band name. So it kind of just naturally went into it being a band name. I couldn't think of for the longest time if I wanted it to be underneath my own name or have an actual project name. So it was kind of just more of an organic thing,
Yeah. We've talked about that on here before, like using your own name versus coming up with a different moniker for a solo project. And I don't know. I mean, I still don't know. I think I personally made a huge mistake using my own name. So.
Really? You think so?
You can't really put it on a shirt, I think.
Yeah, I mean that's like one of my biggest things too. I kept thinking, I was like, well, what if I want to like do shirts someday? I'm not going to be able to stomach putting my own name on a shirt.
So or like a sticker on someone's car. Like you see it down the road, and you're like, oh.
Yeah, you can't I just can't do that. So like I was just going to basically be like, well, I'll just make artwork
Mm-hmm.
and then just not have anything on it, you know. And even like with the Granular Breath tape, the first cassette,
Mm-hmm.
that actually I tried to underscore my own name in it, you know,
Mm-hmm.
even though it was really just the title of, at that point, it was just kind of the title. I
Right.
tried to underscore, you know, leave my name as like towards the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
So you
Yeah,
know,
it's a nice looking tape too.
thank you.
Absolutely, yes. So then Granular Breath is still pretty much just your solo project, correct?
Yeah,
Okay, gotcha.
that way it'll probably just. I don't see ever, and like, I could see maybe collaborating with someone.
Mm-hmm.
I don't ever see bringing in anybody else into that. I would have to be underneath another name. I think I'm just going to keep that as my, you know, like stuff that's sometimes a little too abstract for Aseethe, I guess.
Sure, sure.
You know. So.
Well, the irony that I kind of see in this is Aseethe actually started out as your solo project as well.
Yeah. Yep.
So do you
Yep.
do you think this is kind of in a weird way a continuation of that? Like since Aseethe since Aseethe branched off and became a full band.
Yeah, because I think if I always thought if I, you know, when I started Aseethe, you know, I was really just trying to get, that first record was just all the things that were in my brain that I wanted to get out and couldn't, you know, playing in a full band.
Mm-hmm.
And then it just kind of started, I tried to make it sound like a full band. But, you know, if I wouldn't have, Aseethe probably would have become more of just a drone project if I wouldn't have turned it into a full band.
Sure.
Because it's just a freaking nightmare for me to go to a show and like have a laptop and have all this stuff that just could go wrong.
Oh yeah.
Definitely. Oh, absolutely.
And it totally had happened to me a few times. Like the stupidest things like would happen, like, and it's just like with us, and it was always the laptop, and it was just some dumb user error that when you're on stage and trying to fix it, it's just like too much stress.
Every second's like a minute. It's terrible.
Yeah.
I remember specifically there was a show at Gabe's actually that you played with my old band Disgruntled Noisebox where you couldn't get the laptop. There was something that like the laptop froze up or something.
I was 100% probably that show.
Yeah, and I remember.
Yeah, don't trigger him, Dan.
Well, no. I remember you. You ended up just doing a drone set with just your guitar, and it ended up being equally as awesome.
Well, thank you.
Nice.
Yeah, no, I remember that. So yeah, no, you know, when I play live and I do the solo stuff, you know, I just use like the drum machine and the guitar, and like the laptop thing, like my mind can barely even comprehend a computer, you know. So like, if if that happened to me, it would just be insane. It would be nuts. I'd probably throw the laptop into the audience or something.
Yeah, you know what it was? It was so stupid. The night before, I decided. So like, I had everything. So like, I was playing everything out of Logic, but I had still everything track by track by track. And I decided the night before, I was like, you know what? It would probably make more sense if I just like combined all these things into one track. So it's easier. So so I basically wouldn't have any like latency.
Right.
Well, I left the same mixer in like, I just used the same project instead of putting it into a new project. I left the same mixer, and buried like 30 tracks down was an empty track soloed.
Oh, snap.
And that was it. That was it.
Right.
But it took after the show and me finally like stepping away and me just being like with a clear head, like scrolling down, be like, oh, that's what was the problem.
Oh, it's infuriating.
Crazy.
To put all that work in, and then that happens, and then figure out later what happened. Oh, it's terrible. Yeah, I've been there. I hate it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
definitely.
I would do it if I ever like, I would totally, if I ever was like, I'm going to add drums to Granular Breath, I would I would do it outboard. I would do a drum machine over a laptop just because the chance of something going wrong is so, to me, just like so like less slim, you know? It's like, yeah, you spend the money on the outboard, on the, you know, the actual equipment, you know, a laptop's cheaper, but man, you got to prolong your interface too and all that other stuff. So
yeah, but the technology with drum machines lately, and the price has actually become quite affordable, and the technology is even better than it used to be.
Yeah,
so you can actually get like, I mean, you can get, obviously on a laptop you have more options, but you can still get like very real sounding drums on a drum machine these days.
Mm-hmm.
Wait a minute, they've advanced past the Alesis SR16.
Is that the
It's the most advanced drum machine ever made.
Okay, so what was that, like 1982? They haven't made anything
Actually,
past
the
that?
funny thing is they've been making that shit for like 30 years and they still charge the same price.
How much is it?
Yeah.
It's like $150.
Oh.
Right.
So
But,
so now it's not 25 now?
No, they've always charged $150.
Crazy. What year did that come out?
Honestly, it had to have been 96 or something, but they haven't updated it or changed it and they still sell it. I don't know.
Wow.
It's
Crazy.
a cool machine, but obviously there are better machines.
Yeah.
Most likely.
I would totally go with the. I've looked at, like, I was like, well, maybe I want something like a sampler drum machine, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I've looked at the 1010 Music Black Box, I think, and that's a sample based drum machine. That's pretty cool, but it's like $550.
Oosh. Yeah.
Wow, yeah. I've never heard of that one.
It's very
one that-
small, and it seems
it's
really cool. But
Gotcha. The one that I have is the Boss DR880, which they stopped making that, but it actually has some,
Rhythm.
the Dr. Rhythm, yes, because I had the DR5 before that, and then the DR880, which is still a pretty good drum machine. You could get some really good drum sounds out of that as well.
Nice.
The bass sounds are really cheesy though.
Yeah.
But I kind of like the bass sounds a little bit though.
I'm still rocking the TR-77 Roland from 77 maybe. It's very old. Very old. But
That's
I like
awesome.
it.
Well, hey man, there's nothing wrong with old equipment. A lot of times that's the best stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and also if you need a cha-cha, I mean, shit. The new ones don't come with pre-programmed cha-cha or rumbas. I mean, I use rumba seriously all the time. So
I'm actually going to tell you that the DR880 has lots of pre-programmed cha-chas and rumbas.
Sorry, something about pre-programmed cha-chas is really fun to say.
It's very fun to say. And also pre-programmed rumbas is nothing to shake at either. Both pretty fun to say.
Oh, man. Hey, why don't you load up one of those PP rumbas?
Could you imagine if somebody says that, like, to the sound guy? Can I get a little more pre-programmed cha-chas and rumbas through the PA? You ever thought about adding those to Granular Breath, Brian?
no.
Sorry, once we get started on something,
get
you know
your
me.
cha-chas out.
Sorry, once we get started on something, you know me, Brian. I just beat that horse dead into the ground.
Oh yeah, I know worries.
Yeah, me too.
But hey Brian, for those of you out there who are kind of unfamiliar with Brian's past and whatnot, I don't know, you want to kind of start at the beginning of where you started and when you started with music, and some of your past bands, or whatever you want to talk about, and just kind of your evolution into the Brain Barr that we know today.
Oh man.
I mean, you don't have to give like a detailed explanation, just maybe like a novel or something is what I'm looking for.
Oh, a novel. All right. So yeah, I mean, I pretty much started playing guitar when I was 13. So 30 years ago, almost 31 years ago. So, and then I mean, child of late 80s, 90s grunge, and and kind of, I mean, I played in like, like in the basement with my friends, playing Nirvana covers and stuff like that. Met Erik senior year of high school, not Erik on this podcast, but
It was
that I
coming,
play in
right?
Aseethe with. Yeah. Like I started playing with him, and our first band was actually called Downpour. That band didn't last for super long. That was actually with John as well. That was in Parish's Fools. But that band lasted a little while, like like back then it probably seemed like a long time, but like a year and a half, And then, we just mainly played some shows, tried to write. I don't know if you guys remember, like trying to be an original band in like in Iowa, where it was nothing but cover bands.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah,
We
I remember
like
that distinct.
yeah. We fought that like tooth and nail. Like it was just like we were like, no, we're not playing covers. We're not.
Where did this happen again? What town?
Clinton.
Okay, cool.
So I grew up in
Alright.
Clinton. Like we do you remember the band Gut Bucket from Davenport?
I remember that name. Yeah.
Yeah, we played with them at like Recycled Sounds, which is like a record store in Clinton. That was like our first show we ever played. And that was kind of like our first, they were like, yeah, we just play all originals as well, and it's cool, So we played with Gut Bucket a couple times. That was like probably like our only like window into anything real. Like they invited us to play Stickman's in Davenport, which at the time, man, like I don't know if y'all ever played Stickman's back in the 90s, but they paid like $100 minimum to play. Nice. Like no matter who showed up, you got paid $100. And this was like 94.
Yeah.
Wow. Times have changed.
I feel like bands still get paid the same.
Yes.
Oh yeah, if you're lucky.
Less,
yeah.
Especially, but yeah, $100. Like we played there a couple times, and like or a few times actually, in different bands and stuff. And it was always like, they always were like, yeah, $100. Get paid $100 to play.
Wow.
You'd be lucky if you even make 100 cents now.
Yeah.
It's crazy because you mentioned the bands still get paid that much, and that's if you're lucky.
Oh yeah.
But hell, a lot of times you have to pay to play.
Yeah. Or like, dude, like our guarantee, Aseethe's guarantee on tour is like anywhere between 150 and we try for 250, but it's anywhere from 150 to 250.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And given that it's been this long, and that's still like what we try to get, on tour.
Yeah. Well, stop being a threat to society and get a real job, Brian.
I do have a real job. Kind of.
Okay.
Every musician.
I like how you threw in the kind of at the end.
Kind of.
Kind of. I mean, I sort of am not a threat to society. Yeah. I'm sort of not a troublemaker.
Society needs threatening. Damn it.
Yep.
Come on.
That's true. It does. We need to threaten it all. Okay, so.
Yeah, so then what?
Yeah, what happened after the $100 paycheck?
Oh, yeah.
And you were set up for a lifetime of disappointment. You thought, it's only up from here. Shit.
Yep. No kidding.
30 years later.
Yeah. If we play out of town, fuck, we're going to be so rich.
I had to ask that first Stickman show. I had to because I was 17, I had to ask for permission.
Oh, yeah.
My parents to play that show.
Nice.
Wait, how old were you?
I was 17 when I played Stickman first time.
Yeah. Crazy, man.
I was a senior in high school, but I mean, it's just because, I think it was, probably close to when I was going to turn 18.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
But, so then after that, it was pretty much Erik and I, had a few failed bands or tries at failing,
Uh-huh.
And then kind of in between when Erik and I we were trying to keep Parish's Fools. Well, okay, yeah, Parish's Fools, I guess. Parish's Fools was like, it's kind of funny that Aseethe kind of does what Parish's Fools was trying for.
Mm-hmm.
We're just like too young, and I feel like we were like tried to do things that were like a little bit like out of our like wheelhouse, I guess. I mean, like one thing is I like trying to like actually sing a lot, instead of just being like, I know how to scream, and this music doesn't really need a lot of vocals.
Yeah.
Like,
well, also in '94, like that's a hard thing to sell. Like,
yeah, I think
I know that maybe like the Melvins were sort of doing stuff like that, but before the Melvins, like it was difficult. There wasn't a lot of doomy stuff happening. Like
hell, even after the Melvins, it was difficult for music like that for a while.
Like Saint Vitus, maybe from the mid '80s, was like the only sludgy band I knew of that was like metal oriented.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like you're pretty ahead of your time there in '94.
Yeah, well, this was more like '98 by this point. Yeah.
Even more difficult.
Downpour was more just like your typical grunge band.
Okay.
Like pretty like, like Soundgarden type of stuff. But, John did vocals in that, but obviously he's not the best singer, but anyways, fast forward through like 4 years of like trying to start bands and it just never really panning out. Like Parish's Fools was like kind of that first one that really kind of started to play out of town shows and started like writing. Like our leaping off point was probably Neurosis of like all things, I mean, that was like who we were like, oh, this is what we want to sound like. But
yeah, not to interrupt, but what I wondered what your introduction to doom kind of stuff was, like metal, drone, stoner doom, whatever you want to call it. But where did you find it?
Probably Melvins first, like Houdini. Like I remember a friend. I missed. They played. I think they played the Quad Cities or something, and I missed them. It was probably like a little bit after high school or whatever. And the dude I was playing in a band with at the time, like, was like complaining about how much he hated them because they just literally, I guess, were just like for like 10, 15 minutes, we're doing their sludge, no vocals, no anything, just like, and then feedback. And I'm like, that sounds amazing. Like, that's everything I want. Like,
right.
Yeah.
I get, even though I wasn't really a big fan of them live, like, I mean, seeing I Hate God, I think they played Cedar Rapids with like Pantera and Deftones.
Okay. I think that is a famous show for this area.
Yeah.
Like everyone I know, because I love I Hate God. In fact, I've always wanted to make a shirt that said I hate God, because I think that's funny. But everyone I talk to in Iowa, they're like, oh, I Hate God's terrible. They're like one of the worst bands ever. And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? And they're like, I saw them and they were the worst band. So I think it all must have been one show and everyone was like, they're terrible. So
oh yeah, 100%. Like, I didn't think that they were really any good at all. And
wow.
And it was mostly, the show was mostly feedback and like, which I probably really dig now. I mean, Aseethe has played with them like multiple times now.
Oh yeah.
And they've killed it every time. Like every time they're great and they're really nice people. But like, going back, then it was just like, and I heard, I'd heard some of their albums and I was like, oh, this is really good. But then I saw them live and I was like, this is, and it, it may have just been a really, really, because I've never heard anybody say from Iowa that they played a good show.
Right.
like,
I mean, it's like legendary at this point.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's funny to me, but yeah. That's cool. Yeah, my introduction was like Gummo soundtrack. I mean, I had
right
heard
on.
heavy things and slow things, like I said, like
Yep.
Saint Vitus and even some like Bathory and things like that, older stuff. But as far as like sleep and like knowing there was this new ish scene,
Yeah.
I was like, oh shit, what is going on here? I know that they're beating dead cats with sticks and stuff, but I'm actually more interested in these bands. You know?
Whoa,
Yes.
whoa. Beating
In-
dead
in
cats with
Gummo.
sticks.
In
Oh,
Gummo.
in Gummo.
In
Okay,
Gummo,
okay.
yeah.
I thought you meant that was like a
No, that's a
trait
new
of, like,
genre,
punk
actually.
Is-
Cat torture metal.
Cat-
No,
cat torture. That's a
that's
genre.
wrong.
Man,
Yeah, that is. Yeah. Let's move on.
I was kind of late. Like I remember that soundtrack, and I remembered like I was kind of late to the whole sleep thing.
Mhm.
Like I came like more from the sludgy end of like metal, like Godflesh.
Right.
And like I know that's more industrial, but like more like the metal doom side rather than the Sabbath worship kind
Right.
of stoner vibe.
Yeah.
I think I remember like I was in Showering Ashes as well for a hot minute. And
Ooh,
did
I forgot
their, like,
about
last
that.
tour. Yeah. And I remember like Matt Show playing that first Sleep cassette and it, like to death. Like it was like, this is really good. And then by the end of the tour, I was like, dude, I can't take this tape anymore. Like, stop playing this. And then didn't really get into it again until Jerusalem.
Yeah.
That album to me is like perfection when it comes to that genre. I don't think anybody's really come close.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the funny thing about it all is like I think you can find your strain of that kind of music from wherever you're at. Like you said, like with Godflesh. Personally, Godflesh is like, to me, you can't really put them in a genre. Like they've done so many different things.
Yeah.
And created so much. Like they're like ground zero for a lot of things. And so, but then, my wife isn't a metalhead by any means, but I'll play her like Jesu or something, and she's like, "Oh, that's beautiful," So I think that there's a lot of, as far as genres go, I think it's really subtle variations in that genre, and I think that you can find something you like in there,
Yeah.
no matter what
Sure.
background you're coming from, which is pretty sweet.
Mhm.
I didn't have anything more to say about it. It's sweet. That's all.
All right.
Anyway.
So Parish's Fools in the 90s. That was 90. That was like what, 98 or something like that, Brian?
Yeah, 98 to like 2000.
Okay.
Like I think we like broke up around 2000, somewhere around there.
Right.
I think. No. I think we kind of kept it going. Like tried to keep it going for a little bit. Because when did GOC start? Like around 2002.
I want to say it was like
2001?
late 2001 or something like that.
Yeah, so basically Parish's Fools, like, and as that was kind of like crumbling and not going well, and we kept trying member changes, I think we brought John back at one point.
Yep.
Chris Edwards tried joining and all that stuff. We tried
Noah too. I remember Noah.
Yeah, Noah was in it too. Like it was like everybody we were trying to like just whoever we could play with and whoever like, but it just wouldn't happen. And then you and I, you, me, and Tyler started doing Girls of Comanche.
Yep.
And that's literally the first band I ever toured in.
Yeah, which is really odd because it's probably the least. Well, I wouldn't say the least metal, but the least metal you've been in since Girls of Comanche, I would say.
Yep.
So it's interesting. That was a really interesting tour too. Like,
Yeah.
Looking back on it, it was dumb, but it was so fun.
Oh man, yeah, it was great. I thought it was awesome. It was memorable. Like I've had worse tours, honestly.
Really?
Oh yeah,
Wow.
I've had way worse tours. And like they've never not like been fun. Like never been not been like. For the most part, they've all been fun, no matter how bad. They go.
Sure.
But I feel like it's like I look back at like the Girls of Comanche tours, and it's like, man, we made it through that entire tour and actually like made money enough to record. Like,
yeah,
we actually had
that's
like
weird.
$700-800 at, dude, like literally, like we no band until Aseethe was like, well, like into like halfway through it, came back with that amount of money after that. Like Law of All Ends was like zero if we were lucky, like every time we like came to the tour. Like GOC was actually a pretty successful tour. Like, and then also there's like we made like 200 of those first demos, those 3 MCs.
Yeah,
200 of those.
Yep.
Dude,
Yeah,
like, it was weird. It was like it was like this like band I don't think either of us expected a lot of people to like.
No, not at all.
And then,
I remember we played like our first show was it was supposed to be in Muscatine, but like 3 days before that somehow we got on like a noise show in Iowa City. You remember that?
Yeah.
And I remember like for some reason everybody just fucking loved us, and we had and it was so weird. And then like it just it was very strange. Like, and looking back on it, it was so weird. Like, we didn't have like the internet back then like we do now. You know what I mean?
No, man. It took months for us to book that tour.
Yeah.
Like, and it was like so like making phone calls and, you know, map questing everything, and like it was all on book your own fucking life.
And we had an atlas that we wrote around with us, and
that's kind of the best though. I mean, come on, seriously.
Oh, absolutely.
Book Your Own Fucking Life was so cool. Just
I miss those days.
Resource.
I miss that resource. Yeah. Definitely. Yeah. Did you ever go on any tours back then, Eric?
What years are we talking?
2000.
Early 2000s?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Nope. Okay.
No. I think Old Scratch went out. No, I was in the heart attacks. That might have been 2002. Yeah. So yeah, I guess the answer is yes.
Okay.
Sorry. I'm still reconstructing my life in my mind. I lost all my memories for like the past 20 years, and I'm just kind of digging them out now.
Getting them back now.
Yeah.
Is this podcast kind of helping that a little bit?
Yeah. It's one of the main reasons I do it.
Yeah.
So you can tell me shit that I've done in my life.
Eric, I remember you doing this.
Yeah. That's nice.
Yeah. And also those tours like were like, you know, one person had like a cell phone. Like I think you were the only one with a cell phone.
Yeah, and it was one of those I felt like I was in an 80s rap video or something, because it was like one of those big blocks. Mm-hmm. Remember that?
A Zach Morris phone?
What is a Zach Morris phone?
Oh, it's from Saved by the Bell.
Oh, okay, Zach Morris. Dude, there's an entire like YouTube channel dedicated to like Zach Morris. Did you know that?
Yeah, how he's a bad person.
Yeah, how he's terrible.
Yeah, it's really good. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been meaning to check that out, because
totally
an abusive person.
Yeah. He's
like a horrible.
Yeah, it was
like a sociopath, you know. Like
it really was. And did the Screech Dustin Diamond, or is that his name? Dustin Diamond.
Yeah.
He actually passed away recently, didn't he?
He did.
Okay, yeah. It's crazy. He was in some sort of like weird like indie rock band. Did you know that? Like that it was like an indie math rock band or something. Wow. Like back really? Back in the early 2000s. I can't remember what they were. Played bass.
He also did porn, right? Or no?
I actually don't know.
Sometimes I just make things up, so I don't know the answer.
You're trying to dig for the actual, like, what really actually happened there, Eric?
Yeah, it's a big mystery. Actually, I don't know what happened to him.
Yeah, I don't really know either. But yeah, anyway, Zach Morris, man. So so I had a Zach Morris phone.
Yeah, back to the story.
Actually, do you remember? Oh God, I know that I've told this story several times, Brian, but I have to tell it now. I don't think I told Eric, so I apologize, because I know you've been reminded of this like 1,000 times, Brian. But Do you remember when we were driving down the road and our drummer got a call from his dad?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, which one?
Oh yeah, I guess he called my cell phone several times, didn't he?
Yeah. So
Tyler, I apologize if you're listening. I know you're not, so it doesn't matter. But
where did Tyler go anyway? Where did he disappear?
he lives not too far from me.
Oh, really? Gotcha.
I never see him though. I mean, I think he works at the casino, the Riverside Casino.
Oh.
And I'm not sure, but anyway, so I get a call from his dad, and I think Brian is driving. I'm in the passenger seat. Now Tyler he bought another, like, remember we split like the tour into two different like sections.
It was originally going to be 3 weeks, and then like we couldn't get that middle week booked, so we did like a week and a half, like straight down south.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think we did. First leg was going east.
Yeah, it was East Coast. It was like Ohio and back.
Yeah, like Ohio around there, and then like Wisconsin and stuff like that. And then the next leg was like straight south.
Yeah, straight south,
like through St. Louis and New Orleans.
Our first date was New Orleans. And anyway, I remember he bought a different van because he was so worried about my van breaking down.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, my van was a piece of shit.
Yeah, I think we took it to a mechanic, and they were like, "You're gonna be lucky to get home," and and we got home.
We got home, yeah. It was great. But anyway, so he bought that van, and so I remember like his dad wanted him to use his drum set for some reason, and when Tyler said no, I'm taking my drums, his dad got really pissed and like started yelling at him because I was there when this happened, and he was just like, no, you're going to take my fucking drums. They're so much better, blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to let you take your drum, whatever. So Tyler had another car, and what he did was he said, all right, fine, I'll take your drums. And he took his drums and put them in his car's trunk and hid him from his dad. And then he took his drums on tour. Well, his dad had a key to that car, and I don't know why he even snooped in the trunk. But he just like opened up the trunk and found his drums, and he called me and he's like, I don't know, we're on our way to fucking New Orleans or something. So it's like, at this point, it's like, who cares? You know what I mean? But, his dad was just like, yeah, can I talk to my son, please? I was like, yeah, sure. And then me and Brian heard for like probably like 10 minutes, like, you little goddamn son of a bitch, why the hell did you take It was great.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry, folks. So let's get back to Brain Barr here. Otherwise, this whole podcast will become Girls in Command stories.
Well, I do have to say one more thing about that tour, or New Orleans specifically. That's what we found out who Shopmaker was.
Oh yes, Shopmaker.
Because they were like obvious, like after our set, people came up to us and like, you all have to be like fans of Shopmaker. And we're like, who's Shopmaker? And they're like, what? Like, yeah, we don't know who that is. And we ended up checking them out. Like, I think the people played them, like that we stayed with that night, played Shopmaker, and literally it like GOC was just like Shopmaker. Like sounded.
Doesn't that suck?
Like even the vocals and like even you and I's vocals, like how you're yelling and mine were like literally sounded like dead on with Shopmaker.
Yep. The style of drumming, the style of bass playing.
Yeah.
Everything was like, it was like, oh, so we're ripping people off we don't even know about.
Yeah, like some band from Canada. We're like, okay.
Were they from Canada?
Yeah.
I didn't even realize.
I bought their discography. Like you can get their like whole discography.
Oh yeah, I still have one of their albums. Something like Forget Me Not or something like that. Early one. But actually, I remember like it was interesting because as we after when we got back and we played more shows and stuff like that around the area, it's amazing how many other bands we discovered. I feel that did actually sound like us. Like like there was actually like Off Minor, I think was not.
Yeah.
And there was kind of a scene. I mean, the only reference sort of that I would have maybe had would have been like 10 grand or something.
Yeah,
But even
yeah.
they didn't really sound like us. But
Yeah, 10
Shopmaker,
grand was definitely a lot more like, I don't know, discordant, kind of weirder.
they were actually crazier than us.
Yeah.
Much crazier than us.
Dude,
Like,
literally, like, yeah, that band's still my favorite Iowa band.
oh, hands down. They're one of my favorites, if not my favorite. I mean, just it's crazy. Like I was just listening to "This Is the Way to Rule" the other day, and I forgot how fucking good that record
Oh,
was.
that album's so good.
Have you ever heard that one, Eric?
No, I haven't.
So-
I haven't listened to much 10 grand at all.
Yeah,
I know I should.
I
just
really-
haven't found the time in the last 20.
Yeah, it's hard to find time like when you're growing.
Yeah.
Like you just the time goes by. But you know what? I mean,
Yeah.
there's so many bands that I'm like discovering today that I'm like, we've had this discussion several times, Eric, and I'm sure I've had this discussion with you, Brian. There's bands that I'm discovering today that have been around my entire life. Hell, even before I was born, probably, that I'm like,
Yeah.
why wasn't I into this in high school?
Yeah,
You know?
yeah.
It happens to me like once a week, probably. I'm just like, how did I miss this? But
Yeah.
There's also, I feel like there's also the bands too that have to hit you at the right moment in time sometimes. Like there's definitely bands like I heard the first time and I'm like, this is terrible. And then I'm not into this. And then like 10 years later or some amount of time later, like I'm like, oh, this is great. What was my problem? Like,
have you ever gone back and forth?
yeah, like I've had bands.
I've gone back and forth with Parliament Funkadelic like 5 times.
What? You've actually gone back on them maybe not being that good?
Every so often, every once in a while. Yeah, I'll just hear something that's so goofy and lame, and I'm just like, oh my God,
Well,
and then, I don't know, like Flashlight kills, right? But like the 150th time you've heard it, you're like, oh my God, this again?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. But the first time I heard him, I'm like, this band
I
sucks.
can feel you there.
And then like, 5
Well,
years
yeah.
later, I'm like, this is the best band I've ever heard. So,
I remember Dan, you lending me Modest Mouse, and I didn't like Modest Mouse at first.
Oh, yeah,
it took like
yeah.
another 5 years for me to like Modest Mouse.
Yep. And you know what's really funny about that? That is a band I've gone back and forth on.
Yeah. Oh no,
because-
that's a good point. Like that's the same with me too. Like I've gone back and forth where it's like, this isn't as good as I remember it being.
Yeah. I still say Lonesome Crowded West. I still, if people ask me what my favorite album of all time is, I still say that because at the time it came out, it was so, like, it affected me so much. But, like, okay, that's the stuff I go back and forth on where I'm like, okay, is this really as good as I remember? Now, their new stuff, past good news for people who love bad news, ain't no going back and forth. That stuff's just not that good.
I like a
least
few of
my
those songs a lot, but yeah.
Yeah,
They're
some
pretty
of them,
different.
like Dashboard, that's a good one. But yeah, this is the Modest Mouse cast now. Like I always say, it's
always just under the surface.
Yes,
Honestly,
just under the surface. But no,
if someone said mouse, we'd have a 25-minute conversation about Modest Mouse.
Another band that actually I remember I was always obsessed with trying to compare us to, but looking back on it now, really we didn't sound like them that much. Shellac.
Oh yeah.
Shellac. I've had moments where I'm like, geez, this is even as good as I remember. Then I saw them live at Gabe's, like, what was it, 2 or 3 years ago or whatever?
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, they're as fucking good as I remember.
Yeah.
Because they were fucking amazing live.
Yeah. When we recorded, I'm gonna like fast forward in my musical career to when we recorded. What's up, buddy? You need me just a second.
Okay.
So I can talk while I'm doing this. So when we recorded Throws, we recorded at Electrical Audio,
Right.
and we recorded in Studio B. Well, Shellac was rehearsing in Studio A that entire weekend. Like we were we were like, so basically it was us running into shellac the entire weekend. Like, just the entire weekend running into shellac. And yeah, like, we could like, just, it was just very, you had to get over it. You had to be like, okay, yeah, whatever. Like, I remember there's so many few good moments, but like one moment is like, it was like, woke up in the morning because we stayed the night there because they have bunkhouses there.
Right.
And like I walk into the kitchen because there's like a full kitchen or whatever, and I'm like making coffee or whatever, and like Bob Weston and Todd Trainer are in there, and like I'm just like I just woken up, so I'm just like wearing gym shorts or whatever, and like Bob Weston's like he's like, and it's like January, and it was like actually we were all snowed in, like it was like, what was that 2019 when like we got that nailed with that huge snow.
Yes.
So like that was the weekend, like and like Bob Weston's just like, shorts, huh? That's cold. And Todd Trainer's like, no man, you do you. It's okay.
That's funny.
I was like, I just woke up and I'm getting some coffee.
Me and at that shellac show, me and my
who the hell wears pants to get their first cup of coffee? Come on.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, no kidding.
Shorts, come on, man. Even in January.
Yeah.
Yeah, me and my friend Jeff, who I went to the shellac show with, we actually talked to Bob Weston quite a bit, like even before the show downstairs.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember asking him, I don't know, we were talking about like, I don't know, I think Dinosaur Jr. came up or something like that, you know, and he's like, yeah, there's a lot of old bands like that I like. And he kind of listed off a bunch. And then I just, to kind of be like, just somewhat of a, I don't know, I thought of like the first band that just kind of came to mind. And for whatever reason, I just said Soul Asylum. And he was like, no, not Soul Asylum. He's like, I like their first album.
Mm-hmm.
And then
it is good.
Yeah, I don't remember their first album, but I do love the Grave Dancers Union album still.
I like some of their. I like that guy's voice, Dave something.
Perner.
Yeah, that guy.
Me and Carly got on a conversation about Soul Asylum. Like she was like, I fucking hate that band, and I'm like, really? I liked that album. I thought it was good. Like you know, Runaway Train. Yeah, that was not so great. But you know,
right,
they got some really good songs.
Somebody to Shove is a killer song.
Oh God, it's so good.
Such a good song.
Yeah,
and like
so
I tried playing, and she just like absolutely. And I think it's like his voice is kind of polarizing. I think, but I looked them up, and they're still like I think he's the only original member, but they're still doing stuff. It's not very good.
No, it's very overproduced, like just sort of. Yeah, it's definitely like very radio rockish kind of now.
Yeah,
I've always wanted to do this project called Suicidal Asylum, and it's basically just Soul Asylum songs done in the style of Suicidal Tendencies, and I think it'd be pretty good. I don't know.
I would love to hear the song Without a Trace done in the style of Suicidal Tendencies.
I'll do a demo.
I gotta hear
like
this.
I can play like anyone in Suicidal Tendencies.
Are you gonna use it?
I was just gonna be Mike Muir and jump around and act foolish and do this weird serial killer voice that he does. You know.
But you gotta make me a deal here, Eric. You gotta these Roombas and cha-chas. You gotta include that in there somehow.
Well, it's the style of Suicidal, not. Well, I don't know. Maybe we can work some cha-chas in. I don't know.
I mean, have you ever heard Disco Volante? They basically did that.
I have heard that.
I have heard that
a couple times.
Yeah, at least.
Couple
I'm sure.
hundred, probably. But yeah, you're right. All right, I'll get to work on it. Let's keep talking to Brian, though.
Okay, yeah. So, Brian, what's up?
What's up? Great question. I had that one written down, too.
Yeah. That was kind of the first thing.
Where were we?
I think we were talking.
Girls of Command.
Okay. You fast forwarded a little bit to throws. But what I want to hear about is the Law of All Ends, Law is Dead, Aseethe years.
Oh, my God. All right. I mean, Law of All Ends was pretty much like you know, we wanted to be like do screamy, chaotic hardcore and get in the van, and we did that. And we're like super broke and dumpster diving, and I think we toured almost every 3 months for about 3 years.
Wow.
Did a 7-inch.
Wow.
The problem with that band is like it just like none of us, we were all so broke that like we could never put any money into the band, like enough to really get us going enough. Like that 7-inch like pretty much like killed us financially to do the one like good recording that we did. But I still love all those songs. I wish they would have been, besides the 7-inch, would have been recorded better. You know, like we would actually put some money. That's my only like kind of like bummer about that band. Is that it's kind of it's probably kind of the same with GOC. I wish we would have had some better recordings, because I feel like it didn't do the songs justice.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, so I mean, yeah, like, and you know, yeah, Lava Lens was like super fun to be in. It was kind of like, I feel like to a certain degree though, like me and Eric were like the ones that were like always like all in. We were like, you know, they always called us mom and dad in that band. we were like a couple years older than everybody. You know, my sister was in the band.
Yeah.
And like we were always just like, get your shit together, get in the band. Like, stop messing around.
You were like the Greg Ginn or Ian Mackay of the bands.
I don't know. I don't know which one I would have been. Maybe the Ian Mackay.
You think Eric was probably the harsher one?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Okay.
For sure.
Yeah, because from what I understand, Greg Ginn is like Henry Rollins says in interviews all the time that Greg Ginn is like a machine, and you know, like Henry Rollins spoke of like Greg Ginn as if he's terrified of him. And if you're terrifying Henry Rollins, you're doing either something incredibly right or incredibly wrong. I can't decide.
Yeah.
Nice.
So Eric was running SST, you were running Discord. So what happened with those labels?
Well, I think Discord's still going.
Yes, it is. I think
and
SST.
so SST as well. Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
I mean,
sorry.
I still try to like. I'm like Discord. I keep like meaning to like just like get on their Bandcamp and start like going through everybody that they've released.
Yeah, I've tried that
because
too.
it's just like, or like just making a mental note to do it. I've also done that with Thrill Jockey. I've been like, because there's so many artists jockey that I have not listened to that like are probably amazing, and I just still haven't checked them out. And that's like Discord and Thrill Jockey are like two labels of like, I need to like spend a day each and just like go through and listen to everything. Both
labels have definitely put out a lot of interesting stuff. You've gotten to Trans Am at least with Thrill Jockey, haven't you?
Yeah.
I love Trans Am.
Sounds good.
I love Trans Am too.
both.
I don't have anything to add. That's it. I love them. They're so good.
Maybe we could go through the entire Discord discography, Eric, and we could review them all on an episode.
Yeah, I thought you were going to say we should do that right now. It seems like it might take a while, and I did have other questions.
There you go. We could do a react video to every single Discord release on the YouTube channel.
Oh my god!
All right,
my son loves it. Those reacts.
Yeah, I like those react videos. There's a channel that I watch all the time, Tease McGee.
I was just about to say I think I'm too old for it.
Well, I don't know. I enjoy it because I like. Sometimes he reviews like some of the hip hop that I like, and you don't really see a lot of them. You don't see a lot of reacting to Aesop Rock or something, you know?
Yeah.
And he does, and I always like that. I always like it when I see like, or he'll react to like Fugazi, and it's like people who have no connection to that at all. I always like it when they. Anyway, Eric, I feel like I'm keeping you from asking Brian a question. I'm sorry.
Oh, not at all. We can keep going through the timeline here a little bit too. So, yeah, see, when Noah joined, it changed, the sound changed a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Or did the whole thing kind of change anyway because you were kind of recording as a band? Did that kind of change the sound of things too a little bit, or?
Yeah, I mean, when Noah joining, I mean, I've always, anybody that's been in the band, even though I'm the person that started it, I always treated it like a band and treated it like everybody has like a voice and has, you know, like input sonically and everything. I think Noah was probably the first one that really had like, besides Erik, like had, you know, a lot of like the chops. He's also a really good lyricist, way better than me. So I kind of like was like, yeah, man, you know, bring as much to the table as you want. And Noah kind of came in at that, like he came in at the very end of like the tour cycle for Hopes of Failure. Like I think he did like one tour on Hopes of Failure, like the last one we were gonna do. And then we started writing Throws. So I mean, we pretty much were coming in it from scratch. Like I had no riffs or anything like that. So I think that's kind of, it's also like Noah is like has such like a good like foundation as a bass player. Like that was the first one time where I felt like I could step back from being more of just like a rhythm guitar player, and I could actually add,
because you didn't have to hold the whole thing.
Yeah, I didn't have to hold the whole low end down. Right. Yeah. I mean, because that was very true with everything up to that point, even through Hopes of Failure. Because I think just Danny wasn't 100% comfortable with like playing Doom. So he just kind of was like, I'll just go with playing the root notes and then maybe add a little bit in there once in a while. You know, he probably would have, like, if he would have stayed in the band, it probably would have like evolved more like what with Noah. But I mean, and then it's also like Noah, Erik, and I have like been playing music just as long as each other. We've known Noah forever. Noah was in, like, we had the exact same lineup 20 years ago.
Right.
That didn't, you know, pan out. You know, it was like the ending of Parish's Fools or whatever. So that was kind of the change. And then it's also like, you know, Hopes of Failure, where we kind of stripped everything away and like left all the, like, pretty much like no noise or anything like that. We abandoned all that. And Throws, we kind of tried to bring that back more. And then also just like Noah's and I's vocals dynamics work really well. And we kind of discovered that in the studio.
Oh, wow. Nice.
Like we didn't really try it with Hopes of Failure because it never really was, when we were doing the Hopes of Failure, like when we were touring on that, all the vocals were like separate because Danny and I had very much similar range. So we would just, you know, there would be a Danny part, or so it was the same. It was like there would be the Noah part, but that was like the first time we started actually like doing vocals at the same time. And like even Shane was just like, your guys' vocals sound so good together because one's so low and one's so high that like, and then so like I would just like, even Noah was kind of apprehensive and I would just like keep being like, I'm gonna double up on that part that you just screamed.
Yeah.
So
yeah, no, it sounds really cool. And I got to see you guys a number of times before he was with you, and then I saw you again with him at the mansion. Resnick Mansion or something.
Oh yeah, that was a fun one
with Wolf Eyes, right?
Yeah.
And so that was the first time I'd seen you with Noah. So that, and last time actually, the world kind of dissolved.
Right after that.
After that show, but yeah, it was really cool to see. And I had played with Noah before, and so it was really cool to see him doing a similar thing that he had done in Radness, but a completely different thing at the same time. So yeah, so sorry to ask about specifically one person, but
oh no, that's all right.
Yeah, And it was fun to play with you guys. We played like 2 shows with you guys, and then I got the mumps, and then I quit Radness.
Yeah.
But those were some fun shows.
Yeah, they
for
were.
a couple days. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, that was Madness was in its 4-piece days back then, right?
I think we were.
Well, I thought Phil was actually doing.
Yeah, Phil was part of it.
Yeah. Okay.
Wasn't he?
Yeah.
On that.
Yeah,
weekend?
he was.
Yeah.
I couldn't remember if he was on those shows.
That weekend run.
Specifically.
I'm trying to
Yeah.
remember if he was.
Okay, gotcha.
Man.
I don't know.
Yeah. I remember I saw you at the the 4-piece lineup at one of Sam's River City Throwdowns in Muscatine. Like a few years back, 2 or 3 years ago or something like that, or 4 years ago. I don't know.
I think that might have just been the 3 of them.
No, you were there, Eric.
I was there. See,
Yes.
I told you. I don't know. What happened? Did we talk?
Oh, yeah, that's right. I'm digging stuff up out of your brain. So it was, yeah, we talked.
Oh, okay.
I think it went something like this. Hey, Eric. Hey, Dan.
That does not seem likely.
So what
I
are you
think you're
doing?
making this up. No,
Oh, I don't know. I'm sitting down. All right.
I'm calling baloney on this. Bullshit artist.
No. No, it really happened. I swear. You don't believe me?
I mean, yeah, I have to because you have a working brain.
That's
So
debatable.
I guess you win every argument now. Great.
Dude, actually, this is beginning to sound more and more appealing.
Yeah, for you. Anyway.
Sorry, Eric.
No, not at all.
Sorry you have to go through all this.
Yeah. So I feel like my role a lot of times when we interview people is to ask really specific, boring production process and gear type questions.
Because
So-
Lord knows I would screw that up for sure.
No, I just
No, but
I'm
I'm
obsessed with it. Is all.
I'm being 100% serious. Eric knows way more about that stuff than I do.
Oh, I know. I've played in a band with you.
Brian. Oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
I want to hear about Dan's rig.
Although I will say that it's like an old Rage 158 practice amp.
Hey, that's a good amp.
Actually, those are really good. Those have really good distortion.
They
Those are
do
great.
actually. Yes,
amps.
they really do. I actually have one here that I run my synthesizer and drum machine through a splitter.
Do you use the gain channel?
No, not really. Should I?
You should.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm gonna do that. Thank you for the tip. I will say though that my knowledge of tone has evolved a lot since Girls at Convention.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you did see me in Disgruntled Noise Box, Brian. Come on, don't you think my guitar sounded better than it did in GOC?
Oh yeah, dude. I mean, I think the especially when I think I recorded that Outer Head stuff, that Fender Deluxe you had sounded really good.
Yep.
Right.
Okay, sorry to interrupt, Eric.
Not at all. So, you use a lot of pedals, and one thing I sort of talked about when we reviewed Granular Breath was specifically I wondered about some pedal you have has some sort of bias control on it, or maybe it's just a ZVEX pedal, but something that you have it sends too much electricity through it somehow, and you get that kind of breakup sound. And I just wondered what that was. I mean,
it's a landscape stereo field. It's not a pedal though.
Oh, what is it?
It's and I was actually prepared for this question because I did listen to that review.
Cool.
So a landscape stereo field, it's kind of like a control voltage, like I'm trying to remember not a contact mic, but it actually conducts Like it uses your body as a way to connect the signal. So it's actually the whole thing is a like the whole thing is just an open circuit with like CV outs, and you have like a stereo in and out, and it is my favorite noise device.
Yeah, I saw that on your Instagram post just the other day. I think you had your rig.
Yeah. Cool. So you can run it like on its own, but also, man, you can run instruments into it. Okay. So like on the Granular Breath stuff, I use a signal blender, like an old blood noise signal blender.
Okay.
So I could put my clean tone in as well.
Right.
And that way you can almost use the stereo field as like a kind of expressive distortion pedal. And then I give you that sort of like breaking up, but you can also like get it to the point where like I use it a lot on the Stages set. So if you guys watch that, the Aseethe Stages set, like I use that a lot. Like you can almost get a drone going and then add the stereo field as something like to even push it into like even like a more saturated drone. So you can, it's a super cool box. If you get one, I would recommend getting some sort of a signal blender with it though, because it opens up, because it can just destroy your signal.
Right.
So it's kind of cool to
degenerate that to the point.
Yeah. But if you run it as like something you can, then you also have the idea you can turn it off. Because if you're just plugged into it and then into your pedals, like it's always on.
Right.
Because there's no on or off switch. So the big thing is, like, I think for me, is running, some sort of signal blender with it, so then I can basically turn it on and off when I want.
Sure. Yeah. Right. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Cool. And so, okay, first of all, I don't want to sound like I'm like a disciple of modular. I'm not trying to spread the good word. I'm not on a mission. But when I look at your pedal board, like I said, I saw a post the other day, and my first thought was, why doesn't Brian get into modular?
You know,
and I just was curious because you're already utilizing the same ideas of CV and things like that. So I guess that's another weird question.
so my buddy Greg of Plaguebringer. I don't know if you guys have heard of Plaguebringer or not.
Oh yeah.
They haven't been really too active in the last decade or so.
They're actually they were featured on Food Network.
Wow.
The Plaguebringer burger?
Yes. They
for the Kumas.
There's a show called Best Thing I Ever Ate, and one of the chefs said that there was something about best burger I've ever eaten. One of them said the Plaguebringer, and then they actually they started playing their music, like, then the two guys from Plaguebringer were like serving him like a Plaguebringer burger.
Nice.
From Kuma's Corner.
Whoa.
Wow.
Huh.
Yeah.
Even Greg and Josh never said anything about serving somebody a Plaguebringer burger.
Yeah, well, maybe it wasn't them, but I would assume so. They they were. They had tattoos and they looked like metal guys.
Yeah, no, Greg and Josh don't really look like metal guys, though.
What do they look?
They don't have a lot of tattoos.
Okay,
like normal guy. They kind of look like us, dude.
Then I must be. This is probably something that is. Well, you got tattoos, Brian.
Yeah. I probably look a little bit more like a metal guy, but like, especially now that I have long hair. Like, you know, they're just like, they don't have neither one of them have very many tattoos, and like they're just kind of normal dude looking.
Okay,
like,
well then I must have been looking at the wrong guys then.
Yeah. But I mean, anyways, back to the gear. Like I've been checking out that company Make Noise.
Yeah.
And that's been kind of making me want to dive into that stuff.
Yeah.
I texted Greg, who's like a huge gear snob as well. Me and him have actually like traded pedals back and forth a lot and everything over the last year. And he was just like, and he had like a huge modular synth a couple years ago and sold a lot of that off. And then like has gotten into pedals and he's just like, dude, he's just like, beware. Like it's so much worse than pedals. Like it's so it's so addictive. And I'm like really want to try it, but I think I'm gonna wait. I think I'm gonna give it maybe wait a while before I get into that, because that's a whole another. Every time I've gotten into the synth stuff, like I ended up like abandoning it. Every time I've kind of like been more like synth is the next thing I need to go toward, you know. But the make noise effect stuff, like I definitely see where like there had like a the problem, like they have some of the standalone devices that I was checking, but then they have one that's like on that's a Eurorack module that like takes an SD card and is like a sampler that you can like take samples and pre-recordings and mess with them from there. And I was literally like, oh my God, that's what I need. But then it all goes, you can't just have that one device.
Right. Well,
you have to go from there. So then it's like,
you could just have one device, but you still need a case and a power supply.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I would actually tell people, because when I first got into it, everyone was like, get the biggest case that you can afford because you're always going to want more and blah, blah, blah. And in reality, I think I would have been happier to get what's called a skiff, which is just a small powered case, because you can still fit like, I don't even know, 15 modules on there probably. And if you just used it like it was not really to create music, but to process sound and noise, that's way more than enough. Anyway, like I said, I'm not on I don't have an agenda here, but I just think you'd have a lot of fun with it because it's, you think of noise in a different way.
I know. I think it's probably the next leap for me. I think I'm still gonna do it. I'm treading lightly, partially because of financial reasons, just to be like, all right, I could do it, but man, I know how deep that goes. It's worse than pedals, I think
the thing that, oh, sorry, Brian.
Go ahead. No, I'm done.
I was just going to say, I think that the thing that really fascinates me about the idea of synths, and Eric, we've talked about this. I mean, all I've got right now is basically almost a beginner synth, which is the Arturia Micro Brute. And I'm like, I'm already like, I'm like addicted to this thing, you know, and the idea of modular synths, the thing that I like about it is you're almost unlearning how to play music and relearning, like, you know what I mean? Like
music doesn't have hardly anything to do with it.
Yeah. It's just, it's more about sound. And yeah, man, I could just see myself if I probably would never leave the house. You know, I mean, seriously, my dad would be like, what are you doing in there? Just close the door. You know,
I mean, that was crazy. That was the biggest warning from that was the last warning. And this conversation happened a few days ago. It's funny that you brought it up now. Like, like literally texted him out of the blue and was like, dude, man, this is really starting to make me think. And he's like, you have a wife and a family. I'm like, that's a very good point. Like,
well, have you?
It's just like, it's a very addictive, and I could see that being like, I gotta wait when I wake up.
Yeah, the thing is, it's addictive and completely pointless, which is an awesome combination. Because
you gotta love both of those.
I mean, it's like it would be the same thing as like if you drank one beer and blacked out. That's kind of how it feels. It's like you spend hours and hours making a patch, and then you just have to unplug it, or you can never use your synth again. And so you just rip the cables out, and it's gone forever. It's kind of like a Zen, like one of those rock gardens, you know?
Yeah.
Or like those mandalas they
Arcade.
make out of sand and then they just blow it away. Yeah, it's like that.
Like an arcade, like a Zen arcade.
Yeah, like a Zen arcade. Yeah.
I mean, that's the big thing about it is like you will never like to get that sound. Like you would have to memorize everything, and then like a lot of that stuff is like how you twist one knob. It reacts to the next one in such a odd way that like just trying to replicate it. Like I would need to basically record everything and then make samples of all of it. So then I had it. But I have considered it like for Aseethe, we've been trying to like bring back a lot of that stuff, like the noise stuff and then the synth stuff and everything. And that's one thing I've been thinking is like, man, I'm kind of like slightly working on it, but tiptoeing lightly.
Well, if you want to come over, mess with mine for real.
Yeah,
in the summer sometime. I think it's a fun thing to work with. Anyway,
if you want to bring
I feel like I've taken most of the episode now talking about this. Yeah.
Not really, actually.
Just whenever I see someone's pedal board and it's just like a bunch of knobs and wires, I'm like, you're halfway there.
Do you think a modular synth would sound good through a Rage 158?
Hell yeah.
Yes, it would.
For sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, if you guys
want to, can just do whatever levels of distortion you want with just bias. I mean, just overdrive the whole damn thing. It's a lot of fun.
Really, really good point. You guys want to come over and mess with my Rage 158 and a modular synth?
Let's do it.
Okay.
Sounds good.
How about you come here with your amp? I think
that sounds good.
Would be easier. Okay.
We should definitely plan on this. Brian, Eric, and Dan Jam Day.
All right.
Podcast. Yeah.
Jam. Let's jam.
I'll bring the stereo field.
Nice. That would be rad.
Wait, what is a stereo field?
That's that contact mic sort of thing he was talking about.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, I've seen them. They look really fun.
You could totally
The
borrow
CD
mine if you want for like a week.
God.
Eric, you could totally borrow it if you want. I could like bring it next weekend to practice.
Eric's like, gonna have to take a break from the podcast, man.
Yeah. Anything you can use to control it all is like really a lot of fun. I have inputs for all kinds of shit, and a like a guitar level preamp input, which is pretty sick to run a guitar through the whole thing too.
Oh, cool.
Anyway, I have one more gear question since we're talking about pedals and stuff. All-time favorite pedal.
Oh, dang.
Boss metal.
Hey, mine's the DS1. I'm totally serious.
DS1?
So, hell yeah. $30. You have everything from Nirvana to Sabbath in your pocket.
There you go. Is this a question? Can I answer this question too, Eric?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to think about it. I'm going to let Brian go first.
Okay. Man, that's hard.
You can have a couple. That's fine. It doesn't have to be the pedal.
Okay, so I mean, like, I would say the Blackhawk Amps Balrog would be my favorite heavy distortion.
Okay.
It's like it can do sludge, but like my problem with fuzz pedals has always been that they're just like they have no tight low end.
Right.
Again, I'm just such a Godflesh fan. Like I like that super tight, like punch you in the gut, like muted, chug that like,
Right.
I always feel like fuzz pedals, that just falls apart and it's just like, I'm like flubby.
Oh yeah.
So that would be my favorite heavy distortion. My second favorite distortion would be a Rat variant. And what I found, like, I actually kind of like the Rat better as a low gain pedal. Like,
oh, sure. Yeah.
And the 1981, I've had like a ton of different Rat
Mhm.
Like I kind of started out like I had like a 1985 Rat reissue that I like reviewed when I wrote for Premier Guitar for a hot minute. And that kind of started it, and I had that for like a year. Like I used that for like 4 or 5 years as my main distortion for Aseethe. Like, and then I kind of got bored with it, and then started down this like 4 or 5 year train of like trying every distortion.
That's how it works.
And then I ended like landed on the Balrog for my heavy distortion, and then that 1981 I just bought on a whim. And I really like the low gain on that.
Nice. Yeah. Rat's a good choice. That's
it's just like it's like
classic.
Yeah. So those are probably my two favorite distortions.
Cool. Yeah.
Can I give you a favorite of each?
You can tell me anything you want about pedals, and I will be stoked. Whether people listening will be, I don't know.
So I've never been a huge modulation fan, like a really big into modulation. Yeah. Like I can neither take but the Fairfield Circuitry Shallow Water is like an amazing, very subtle chorus.
Okay.
That I really dig. It can also kind of get you like that guitar doubling effect. Oh man. I feel like my favorite reverb it's funny enough that my favorite reverb pedal is probably one that I got to rebuy.
Oh, snap.
My favorite reverb probably of all time is the Strymon Blue Sky.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I've heard really good things about the
I got I got weirdly like into a bunch of different ones, and I thought like I wanted it, like it was like now I have the Walrus Audio R1, which I really dig. I just feel like the Blue Sky still tops them all. I do have those the OTO machines. Like I have that reverb, the OTO BAM and the OTO BIM, the delay and reverb.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Those are amazing. Actually, those are fantastic. They're just not pedals; they're tabletops.
Yeah.
But if I could figure out how to get my switcher to actually them to accept the MIDI signal from my switcher, I would probably ditch the Walrus Audios altogether and put them on my pedal board.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
They're like, the funny thing is they're like supposed to be replicating like 18, like what is it? Like 15-bit, like 80s, like rack mount stuff. And they do such like they're so warm and like they sound so good, and you can push them so far like into like huge reverb and cavernous sounds that like you can just, and they'll take anything that you'll feed it without like a clipping or anything like that. Those are probably my favorites. So those would be my favorites. I've been digging the light pedal a lot too, the Game Changer light pedal. As more
I don't know
just
if I know that one.
So it's like a spring reverb. I did it on that latest video, that thing that was flashing.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It's like an optical spring reverb pedal, and it actually has like springs in it. But I use it as like a feedback, like as an expressive feedback thing.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
So Game Changer, they're the homies that did the lightning pedal, right?
Yeah.
Like your distortion comes from lightning. Did you ever try that out?
Yeah, I use that actually on the newest Granular Breath.
Oh, okay. Is it pretty cool? You like it?
Yeah, I like it. My buddy Josh Ford brought it to the studio, and I actually used it as it's the lowest end guitar on the newest, the Granular Breath that I sent you guys. The one where I recorded with John Hopkins. The lowest guitar sound in that is that plasma pedal.
Nice. So. Cool. All right. Thanks for answering all those questions.
Yeah. I'll talk about beer. Hey, you should just.
Okay, then one more question. What's your tuning? Well, let me preface that with, you don't use a baritone, do you? You just
Yeah,
have
I
a,
do.
you use a baritone. Okay, so
Now,
different scale.
so
Nice.
I use so I used the Les Paul for like a few years. That's not a
Right.
baritone.
Hmm.
I not this past, but about a year and a half ago, I bought my EGC Aaron Turner like model, and
Okay.
that is that's like a 27 and a half scale baritone,
Hmm.
which is it's shorter. Like some people will be like, it doesn't even look like a baritone, but it is. But I tuned to AEA-DFA,
Okay.
and it is exactly what Sun, like O'Malley and Greg Anderson from Sun,
Okay.
tuned. Like
Awesome.
I got it from a Guitar World. Like I tuned to like drop A forever. Like a lot of the earliest C stuff was in A standard.
Right.
Even like the Terra C stuff, Dan, like was in like before Aseethe was in like a drop G, and I used a baritone. But like I forever was always trying to figure out that conate, like that kind of like brang, like
Yeah.
Right.
I was always like, what is that? Like, what is that chord that he is doing? No, it's just the open tuning. That's the tuning. That's
Wow.
like that's it.
Oh yeah.
That's the tuning. It's just playing all the six strings in an open A, and I've never looked back. I've
Nice.
tried other tunings, and I can't. A lot of my friends, like in other sludge bands, like tune down to like F, E. Anything past lower than A to me kind of like starts to sound like too flubby.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I get
Like
that.
you don't get that like attack. Like again, it's like still like why I'm not a huge buzz person. Like I like that like just punch in the gut attack
Right.
when it comes to
For
tone.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and fuzz gets, I mean, fuzz is in this nebulous, weird region where it's sort of a ring modulator. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it is, what it's doing is different than distortion, you know? And so it has a different sound to it and a different feel to it. And it has its place for sure.
Oh yeah.
But my fuzz doesn't come out unless unless I really am thinking, oh, this needs a fuzz. Like otherwise,
Yeah.
I wouldn't use it as just my regular distortion sound very often because it's buzzy and it doesn't have that sort of palm muted chug
Yeah.
depth to it. So,
Yeah. It also doesn't. They don't always come out in the mix
right.
very well, like in a
That
full
makes sense.
band. I do like I did on like when we recorded recently. I have like the Magic Pedals Cthulhu fuzz, so I do use that, and I did use that on, but it was in like this is a super sludgy part and it needs to be noisy and like things are gonna fall, like sounding like they're almost falling apart.
Right.
So I like wanted, and that one's close and like it's almost like a good pairing to the Balrog. Like the Balrog is like super sludgy and low end. It has tons of low end, but it still has that clarity and like tightness. But like the Cthulhu is just enough on that like that same sound spectrum that it just sounds like you just pushed, like you just like turned the lag, like on an amp, like you just turn the lag up on like
Right.
like on like if you're biasing an amp or like you're like you turn the lag up so it's like spongier. So it's like and but then it kind of like is a little deeper sounding and stuff. So it has its place for sure. It's not leaving my pedal board anytime soon.
Right. Gotcha.
Awesome.
Sweet.
Well, Brian Barr, I think it's about time to wrap things up. Unfortunately,
Sorry to take so much time.
No.
with
I
you
mean,
to talk.
I wish that we could. I both wish and am super glad at the same time that this is not a 6-hour podcast, but it could easily be a 6-hour podcast.
I think
you know?
so.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't even get to like most of the questions you had me like prepared for. Like I have Post-its with like, who's my biggest influences and who's like,
Well,
what records have I been listening to? Like,
you know what?
I have all
This,
that.
this
We can
calls
just
for
keep
maybe.
talking and split this one, and it can be a two-parter.
That's true. Well, I was just actually going to say that we could do a part 2 with Brian Barr sometime in the future.
We could do that
an
too.
hour later. I don't even care.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah, an hour later.
I do have to go to bed at some point.
At some
but-
point, yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
I have to
But,
be a parent. I have
yeah,
to be a
part
parent
two.
at some point too. So.
at
we
at,
can
at
plan
some
on it.
point, we gotta like distinguish reality from reality, a different reality.
Dan, before we do go though, like when I was listening, so like when I did want to mention this one thing, like
Okay.
so like when I listened to the podcast with you guys reviewing, and I listened to the Godspeed,
Yeah.
you were the one that actually introduced me to Godspeed You Black Emperor.
Wow.
Did I really?
Yeah, like actually I remember vividly. I can't remember. Maybe we might have been playing in GOC at that point.
Probably.
But yeah, you like we were like driving, and I don't, maybe I can't remember who else was with us, but like we were driving to like your house or something, and it was like we were like out in the country, like
Sure.
driving like somewhere, Muscatine maybe to Nickel, I don't remember, but that part. But you're like, yeah, like there's this band, and you played Slow Riot, and it was like immediately like
Nice.
this is like a moment in time where like here's this whole new thing of music,
Wow.
like so.
It's hard for me to even think that I was the one that introduced Brian Barr to Godspeed.
You were.
That's interesting. Did I say differently on the podcast, or did I kind of allude to like something else?
Oh no, you guys were just talking about Godspeed.
Oh, okay,
Talking
all
about
right.
Slow Riot being like the album, and I was thinking, I was like, man, Dan's the one that told me about
Crazy. It's
literally
still
introduced me to that band.
it's still one of the most gorgeous things I've ever heard today.
Yeah, I mean
I love it.
yeah, same. It's still, I've followed them through, like I have all their recent albums. Like I've followed and bought every one of them.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't bought the new one yet. I have it for streaming on Apple Music on iTunes, but
Yeah.
I haven't. When I went to buy it, like Noah told me, he's like, "Hey, new Godspeed landed today," and it was like by the time I went to buy it, it was sold out.
Yeah.
And I still, yeah, but like I followed them through, when they came back, after their hiatus, and we even went and saw them and stuff, and
Nice.
like, yeah, they're definitely one of those. They're like the one post rock band that's actually, to me, like they're the staple, and they're also the only ones to me that are really, 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 really fucking good.
Yeah, and they were also
Like,
I kind of feel they basically invented that whole instrumental
yeah,
post rock sort of genre, like
yeah,
in a
And I-
weird sort of way.
yeah, and I like mono and like explosions and like all of the above, but like I feel like overall Godspeed is still held the as the kings of that whole thing.
I would definitely agree with
In
that,
my
for
opinion.
sure. I would
Yeah.
definitely agree with that. So, yep, don't forget, you can follow the podcast on Instagram, Facebook, Dan_the_ruler. And Eric, I'm sorry, I always butcher it.
Oh, it's fine. No one really needs to look.
No
at
one
mine.
cares. Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Actually, you know what? That's a good point. Just go to the Accelerativ Thrust Instagram and Facebook.
There you go.
That's
yeah.
a very, very good idea. But Brian Barr,
Yes.
where's the best place to find your stuff online right now these days?
You can go, obviously, I think just going to Thrill Jockey.
Cool.
It's a website, you can find us there as far as Aseethe stuff. And, Bandcamp, Granular Breath. .bandcamp.com, but Thrill Jockey's always an easy one to jump off of.
Nice.
That sounds good. Yeah, and there's a lot of other great artists on Thrill Jockey too, man.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Just a great roster all together. But definitely check out Brain Barr and Aseethe. And if you want to hear all of the old stuff, too bad. No, Girls of Comanche you can actually find. Did you know that our demo is on Bandcamp?
Yeah.
The red one.
Yep.
But the day we killed the elitist, it's almost like I'm convinced it doesn't exist and that we never actually recorded it.
Dude, I have the master somewhere buried in a pile of CDs. I just don't have, I've been meaning to buy, so for like Mac, you have to have like, you have to buy the separate disk drive.
Uh-huh.
Like I've been meaning to buy the disk drive so I could actually start like, burning some of these CDs. And I have tons of photography that I used to do, like bands and everything that I used to like take photos of. I have tons of CDs of stuff to go back and revisit. And I know I don't have the physical actual release, but I know I have to have that master somewhere.
Sure.
Buried on a hard drive. It's somewhere. If I find it, I would like to.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wait, it will definitely have to be sent to the 319 Bandcamp dudes or just a Girls of Comanche Bandcamp for some reason in 2021.
So yeah, if you have a Mac disk drive laying around that you're not using, get it to us so you can hear this music.
What about a Parish's Fools re-release?
No.
Ah, come on.
No.
It's what you were trying to do only in the 90s.
Yeah. I'm not comfortable enough. Like I'm not comfortable enough with the vocals I was trying to do that I could not do.
Yeah.
Back then. So that would make or break it for me.
What about a Law of All Ends release then? I'm really treading on thin ice here, aren't I, Brian?
Maybe there won't be a part 2, y'all.
I still have like a few like 6 or 7 7-inches.
Oh, I have
in a closet.
I have a press. I think it's like a press copy or something. Like not a press copy, but a test copy. Yeah, test.
Oh press. Yeah.
It was released to the news channels.
It's like,
CNN, here's your copy.
Yeah, we did like I can't remember. I think we did 50 or 100 test presses because we like weren't gonna. It's funny that companies can do this. It's just like, okay, yeah, the 300 7-inches are not going to be done in time for the date that you needed them by. Well, can I get like 50 test presses? Sure. Like, can you just do the whole run then?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Makes no sense. Okay, I guess I'll buy a bunch of test presses. So like, yeah, we had to screen print. So you had the screen printed version, I assume.
Yeah. The well, actually, no. I don't know.
There was like 10 hand-drawn ones.
Well, it was just a piece of cardboard with Law of All Ends written in like pen.
Okay, so you have one of the limited ones then. That was like there was only like 10 or 20 of those made.
Oh,
and
those
are
collector's item.
Individually made. Like I think Zach and I sat and did the artwork for those, and
it looks like on eBay.
I was gonna say,
no, I'm just kidding.
how much do you think those go for? Dude, Eric and I were literally thinking the same thing because my next question was, how much do you think I could get for it on eBay?
I was making a joke though.
Well, yeah, and I was being serious. But
one thing I've thought about a couple times trying to sell on eBay is I have the original like Chevelle CD, like the blue demo. Or it wasn't a CD. It was literally point number 1 before they recorded point number 1.
Yeah, before they
like
recorded
all the
that
songs. Like I have that. Do you have that CD? Like I have that CD, and I'm always like, how much is this maybe worth?
Yeah, it's very possible that it might be worth a lot. So anyway, folks, you all have a good night. Thank you for. Let me know if any of you out there know how much that original Law of All Ends 7-inch is going for. Let me know. Otherwise, have a good night and thanks for listening to our podcast.
Thanks, Brian, for being on.
Oh yeah, no
Thank you
problem.
much.
Thanks for having me.